Welcome to the deep dive. So if you're aiming for a life that is not just long, but, high quality,
Yeah.
you've probably felt completely overwhelmed by all the health headlines.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you need a new diet? Another pill? Today, we're going to try and cut through all that noise. We're doing a deep dive into a really powerful stack of sources, all centered on the work of longevity expert Dr. Peter. His whole approach is it's so focused on objective, data-driven outcomes. It gives us a clear roadmap.
And that roadmap, it has to begin with a really important clarification about the word longevity itself. You hear it and you instinctively think it's just about the number, how many birthdays you get.
Right, the quantity of years.
Exactly. But the sources are so insistent that true longevity, the kind we should all be aiming for, is at least 50% about the quality of those years. The goal isn't just to tack on more time at the end, it's about adding health, adding vitality to that time, living better, not just longer.
That shift in perspective is everything. Okay, so if we accept that mission, living longer and better, we first need to know what's standing in our way. What are the obstacles?
We have to identify the main threats. And the data here is, well, it's pretty sobering. Roughly 80% of what ultimately shortens our life and diminishes its quality comes down to chronic disease.
So if we're serious about this, that's the enemy.
That is the enemy.
And Dr. Peter gives them this fantastic kind of foreboding title, the Four Horsemen.
Yes, and that term really helps. It helps you visualize the targets. So the four horsemen are, first, cardiovascular disease. That's still the biggest killer globally.
Right.
Second, cancer. Third is neurologic conditions, which, that's primarily things that erode our cognitive function, like dementia.
Okay.
And then fourth, metabolic conditions, with type 2 diabetes being the big one. If you can proactively push back against those four things, you just drastically shift the odds in your favor for a long, high-quality life.
So if that's the enemy, what's our single best weapon? Because the sources are surprisingly firm on this. It's not a pill, it's not some.
It's not genetic engineering, no. The sources are completely unequivocal. If you want to know the single most important thing you can do to ward off all four of those diseases at once, it's exercise.
And this is where the data really challenges what most of us think. You hear exercise is the answer, and you immediately picture, training for a marathon.
Or hours and hours in the gym every day.
Exactly. But the expert talks about something called the minimum effective dose, the MED.
And that concept is the real aha moment for so many people who feel intimidated by all this. The surprising thing is you absolutely do not need to be training like some elite athlete. The big win comes from just getting started.
What happens when people go from doing nothing to something?
Okay, so if you are doing nothing right now, and you increase your exercise to just 2.5 hours a week.
So 150 minutes.
Right, 150 minutes. That simple action reduces your all-cause mortality, so your chance of dying from anything, by a staggering 15%.
15%. That's an extraordinary return on investment. In clinical medicine, finding anything with that kind of impact that isn't a drug it's just incredibly rare.
It truly is, and it tells us that the benefits are really front-loaded. You don't need to be training 10 or 12 hours a week to get the bulk of that longevity benefit. The biggest leap is from zero to something consistent.
Okay, that sounds manageable, but I can already hear people thinking 2.5 hours. That still feels like a lot when I'm working like crazy and juggling family. Do the sources give any advice on how to actually find that time?
Yeah, it's about integration, not just aspiration. So instead of trying to find this huge 2-hour block in your calendar, you build it in. You do walking meetings, you take the stairs, you do a brisk walk after dinner. It's about making those 30-minute chunks non-negotiable, just like an important appointment.
Because it is an important appointment.
It's preventative medicine.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that connects so well to the second part of movement, which moves away from just cardio, the length of life, and towards functional fitness, the quality of life. Let's talk about mobility and balance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because so much of what goes wrong in late life is it's the inability to perform what are called activities of daily living, or ADLs.
Let's just clarify ADLs because it sounds a bit vague. What are we talking about specifically?
We're talking about the absolute basics that keep you independent. The ability to get dressed, to bathe yourself, to get up from a chair without help, walk up a flight of stairs. When you lose that capacity, your independence it plummets.
And the classic example they use is stepping off a curb. At 30, you misstep, you stumble, it's nothing. At 70, that same little stumble can be a life-altering event.
It goes from an inconvenience to a catastrophic risk. And this brings us to, I think, one of the most sobering statistics in the entire source stack. For people over the age of 65, if they fall and they break a hip, there is a 15% to 30% chance they will be dead within a year.
Wow. That number really needs to sink in. Up to a 30% mortality rate inside of a year just from a fall.
It's a chilling detail, and it completely reframes what balance training is for. We're so focused on building big muscles,
Right.
but the ability to stop a fall, the strength to catch yourself, that's just as vital as your cardio fitness.
So exercise hits the physical side, and it's also protecting us from the four horsemen, including the neurologic ones. But let's dig into the mental side a bit more. What are the key pillars for cognitive longevity?
Well, for cognitive health, the two most important factors, and this overlaps nicely, are still exercise and sleep. Exercise builds new brain connections, and sleep is like the cleanup crew for your brain.
But there's a third area that I think gets sidelined all the time, especially by high-achieving people, and that's the emotional side.
That's such a key distinction. We're not just talking about feeling happy, we're talking about the fundamental architecture of your life. It comes down to two things: your sense of purpose and the strength of your relationships.
And the sources have this idea they call the effort principle. It's a warning that these connections, they don't just happen. It takes actual work.
Precisely. You can't treat your friendships or your family like some passive resource that's always going to be there. It requires real energy, real scheduling. You know, the big warning is against getting so immersed in your job that you neglect everything else, and then you wake up at 70 and realize those strong, reliable connections you need just aren't there anymore.
That is a powerful motivator. But what's the actual measurable impact of loneliness on how long we live?
So there's growing evidence that chronic loneliness can actually shorten your life, the length of your life.
Okay.
But, and this is the crucial point the sources make, even if that science is still being finalized, the deterioration in the quality of your life from being lonely is reason enough. I mean, why live to 100 if you're going to spend the last 20 years completely isolated?
Right. The quality argument alone is enough. So let's pivot to that other cognitive pillar you mentioned. Sleep. This is one of those topics where everyone has an opinion. What do the evidence-based guidelines actually say?
The data is pretty clear on this. For almost everybody, optimal function happens in a very specific window, 7 to 8.5 hours of actual sleep.
So what's the actionable goal? Because I might be in bed for 8 hours, but not asleep for 8 hours.
That's the key distinction. The goal should be to spend enough time in bed to get 7 full hours of actual sleep. Time between falling asleep and waking up, hitting that solid 7-hour mark is just critical for clearing out all the metabolic waste in your brain that contributes to those neurologic horsemen.
Fantastic. Okay, let's address the elephant in the health room. Supplements. We're all just bombarded with ads promising a quick fix.
A magic pill for everything.
Exactly. Do any of them actually work?
This is such a crucial topic. The general overriding rule is this: most supplements do not work, and they are absolutely not a substitute for exercise and nutrition.
So why is that? Is it just that they're all snake oil?
It's a few things. First, there's often a lack of rigorous science. But maybe more importantly, it's about absorption. Your body is incredibly selective. A lot of these compounds just get broken down before they can do anything useful.
So if someone is selling you a miracle supplement to boost your mitochondrial health, what's the real story there?
The real story is that the pill is almost certainly doing nothing. The only proven way to get your body to build more of those little energy factories, your mitochondria, is to stress it. That demand signal comes from exercise. That biological response is just. It's worlds more powerful than anything you can swallow in a capsule. Effort beats ingestion.
Okay, so given that very evidence-based, very ruthless stance, are there any exceptions? Any supplements that the experts in the sources actually endorse?
Yes, a couple, but only because their profiles are so well understood and deficiencies are so common. The first one is magnesium. Most people are actually deficient in it, and it plays a role in hundreds of bodily functions like sleep and muscle recovery, so that can make a real difference.
And the second one?
Creatine. It's been around forever, it's been studied to death, and its profile is completely understood. It's one of the very few things proven to safely improve muscle performance and maybe even offer some small cognitive benefits.
So we've basically built this clear, proactive roadmap. Longevity is about quality. We're targeting the four horsemen. We're using movement as our main weapon, knowing that just 2.5 hours a week gives a huge return.
And we're investing in relationships and optimizing for at least 7 hours of real sleep.
It all comes down to probability, not destiny.
Exactly. It's not a passive state. It's an active, proactive approach to engineering your life to push back against decline. And the best tools, movement, sleep, connection, they're accessible to pretty much everyone.
And let's end with a final provocative thought for you to take into your week. If exercise is the single most important thing for preventing the four horsemen and for improving your cognitive health, and we know the minimum effective dose is just 2.5 hours a week, think about this. What daily habit are you currently prioritizing that is actively subtracting from your ability to find those 2.5 hours? Take a hard look at the time you spend scrolling or on passive entertainment. Is that 150 minutes really too much to ask for such a massive, data-backed reduction in your long-term health risk? That's the proactive question to consider.